A famous legend has it that the French Emperor Napoleon once passed by a synagogue in the Russian prairies and heard crying from within. "Why are those Jews crying?" he asked his aide. "It is the 9th of the Hebrew month of Av, and they are mourning the destruction of their temple," was the answer. "A temple was destroyed in the French Republic? I should have been notified," said Napoleon. His aide explained, "Their temple was destroyed almost 2,000 years ago. And they're still crying about it 2,000 years later?" said Napoleon. "A nation that mourns like that will surely return to its land and see their temple rebuilt."
There's something I can't understand. The Jewish people were forced to leave their land through thousands of years of exile. And they remained faithful to it and always kept dreaming of Jerusalem. How? How'd they do it?
I think a lot has to do with the strength of the words in this book. On the rivers of Babylon, there we sat, there we wept, as we remembered Zion. This psalm became a universal expression of a longing for a homeland. The exile of tens of thousands of Jews from Judea to Babylon in 586 BC marks the very first period of exile in Jewish history.
586 BC. This phenomenon of having a strong connection to land is well known amongst dispersed people.
But the story of the Jewish people is a bit different. I mean, even thousands of years after they were exiled from their land, they maintained this bond, this connection to their land.
What's interesting is that history repeated itself. After rebuilding the Second Temple, it was destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE, and the Jews were exiled once again. In subsequent generations, the land was nearly emptied of Jews, and yet they persisted in maintaining their connection to it.
The connection is in the DNA of the birth of the religion. God, who chose Abraham to be the father of the Jewish people, sent him from his birthplace in Mesopotamia to the land of Israel with an everlasting covenant that he and his descendants would have this land as their legacy.
This land was described as under the direct supervision of God, and many of the commandments could only be observed in it. The most important events in the history of the people of Israel took place in this sacred land.
Even though historically most of the Jews who have ever lived never saw the land, their connection, their bond, their belonging to it has been incredibly preserved in the collective memory.
True, Jews mentioned the land of Israel and prayed to return to it in their prayers and blessings before every meal and throughout their entire lives. All Jewish worshippers and synagogues, wherever they were, faced Jerusalem. And I will be found by you, says the Lord, and I will return your captivity and gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, says the Lord, and I will return you to the place whence I exiled you.
This connection to the land is not only intellectual and theoretical.
Throughout the generations, and even in the most dangerous and difficult times, Jews made great efforts to immigrate to the land of Israel and live there, including some of the greatest scholars of the Jewish people, from the sages of the Talmud through Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, Balei HaTosafot, Nachmanides, and Rabbi Yosef Karo.
Everyone's energy was directed to this holy land.
This unique concept of Holy Land, it was adopted by Christianity, right?
Yes, correct.
How is this unique idea explained?
Well, we know that throughout history, Jewish scholars developed spiritual explanations about the land and the connection that we have to it.
Some believed that Israel's geographic location at the junction of the three continents, or the center of the world, as depicted in ancient European maps, reflected the Jews' historical role in being a spiritual influence on diverse cultures, which would eventually lead to unity and world peace.
And it shall come to pass in the last days. This verse is a prophecy. What a strong belief to be part of. I can imagine them in times of distress and war, yearning in their hearts for the right Lord to reunite the world.
My heart is in the east, and the rest of me at the edge of the west.
The great Jewish philosopher, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi.
Yes, the poem was written 900 years ago in Spain by Halevi, before he made his journey to Israel. I mean, the collective faith in the fulfillment of the biblical prophecies is very clear. Return to Jerusalem. When will they return? The Jews didn't know, but they never stopped believing that it would happen.
And finally, it did.